Hello, my loves. Today we're going to look at some more Reddit stories, and if you've enjoyed a Reddit story, why don't you consider hitting the subscribe button? Maybe that's the notification bell too, and let's start with today's story. My brother is abusing drugs and breaking the law. I don't know what to do. Hello, I am 23 years old. My brother, 18 years old, was just caught by me and my parents doing hard drugs yesterday right after a cop came to our house to give him a warning because he got caught violating his restraining order by bringing an underage girl into the house. He started acting weird 6 months ago when he met a new friend group. My parents gifted him a car when he turned 18 and he crashed it, making it undrivable. He then started using my mom's car, which he then totaled. And then finally he stole my dad's brand new Tesla in the middle of the night with a bunch of underage kids and his friend Billy. Turns out he's the supplier and drove it into a tree, totaling it. Since then he was been sneaking people into the house, mostly an underage girl 15 years old who's my dad's best friend's daughter, which he claims he's in love with. The family put a restraining order on my brother so they wouldn't contact each other, but they still do, and he got caught by the cops because she snuck into the house to bring my brother drugs. I discovered this because he left his Snapchat open on his computer after we caught him with the hard drugs. Ever since the first accident, I had been begging my parents to give him consequences for his actions, but they continued to ignore my pleas until the final car was smashed. Since then, we have been arming the house with ring cameras, sensors, and alarms. As of now, my dad has probably spent almost $1,000 on new security alone. My parents are saying they want to section my brother Section 35 Massachusetts, but I really hope they actually put him in rehab or inpatient. I hope they actually go through with it. My brother was a quiet, sweet, and sensitive person with not a lot of friends before this happened, and now it's like talking to a zombie who won't stop lying. I don't know what to do with myself. I find myself getting angrier and angrier at him, and I feel guilty. He won't stop lying about everything with sometimes a shit-eating grin. Last night he jumped out of an 8-foot window in the middle of the night. I can't get a night's rest without an alarm going off, and am having extreme anxiety and paranoia. I don't know how involved I should be in this. I feel like a parent at times. I don't know how I should be reacting/treating my brother. I want to move out, but I feel bad leaving my little sister, 13 years old, to deal with this alone, and my dad also has been saying he doesn't want me to. I really do want to leave, but I don't know if it's the right thing to do. My brother is abusing drugs, smashing cars, messing with underage girls, and I don't know what to do. I, at 28F, have been seeing my ex, 33M, and don't know if I should break it off or try to fix things. Ex, 38 years old, and I am 28 years old, were in a long-term relationship that was majorly toxic. Both parties contributed to constant fighting, abusive threats, emotional manipulation, psychological abuse, cheating, etc. throughout the duration of this relationship. Before you write this story off and make the obvious comment that this relationship is unhealthy, just hear me out and put yourself in my shoes. I really love this man and in a lot of ways will always love this man. However, after years of putting up with toxicity and selfishness from him, I had finally had enough. Long story short, we moved out on our own and parted ways, except we never actually stopped talking or seeing each other. We go through phases where everything is wonderful, and then I'll find out that he's been looking for new connections on dating apps. When this happens, I tend to wander off and start talking to new people as well. Both of us act like this is unacceptable behavior even though we are not technically in an exclusive relationship. He will tell me how much he loves me, and then when we spend time together it seems like all we do is bicker or make jabs at each other. On top of that, there hasn't been any physical intimacy in weeks and he is pushing and pressuring me into it. I feel uncomfortable with this, but he makes a very fair claim that his physical intimacy is an important factor for him. It's clear that the correct answer is to break up and go no contact, but for some reason I just can't seem to do it. I clearly love him very much even if I'm not completely emotionally invested in the relationship right now, and we don't seem to be meeting one another's needs. I also don't trust his words because they don't seem to always match his actions. I truly don't know what to do or how to get through this. We have been terrible to one another and I feel this immense guilt in both leaving and staying. My friends and family can't stand him and vice versa. Does any of this stand a chance? I feel insane even asking this, but at the end of the day I love this man. Any advice, words of wisdom or commisery is welcomed. Ex and I had a toxic relationship but can't stop seeing each other. He ruined the relationship and I ruined the breakup. I feel like I'm either stuck in a cycle of abuse or that maybe I am the abuser. Story: friend didn't invite me to his wedding. My 30 years old friend, 29 years old, got married last month. He hadn't really shared much in terms of his wedding plans with me, and I assumed was having a low-key event with just family, which is why I hadn't been invited, and I was fine with that. Until he sent me a text apologizing for not inviting me and that the event was for family and friends only. His reasoning was that he couldn't invite me because then by extension he'd have to invite the rest of the community that we associate with. I told him family and friends only. Got it. We are Bengali and there is a large Bengali community where we live, but neither of us are really involved in the community. The only real participation is attending a funeral of a community member. I thought that was a weak, flimsy excuse considering our minimal involvement with the community, and then I heard from a mutual friend that a few community members were actually invited and attended as his father is a big member of the community. In addition, some of the other friends he invited are those he met not too long ago, 1 to 2 years versus knowing me for 20 years. As a grown man, I'm a bit ashamed to say that this hurt me quite a lot. I thought we were super close since we talk on a weekly basis, hang out often, and have been friends for 20 years. I have a small family and very few friends. I considered him one of my closest friends, and he would always tell me things like, "I know you have a small family, but think of me and my family as your family." I feel like he could have invited me privately if he was worried about having to invite the community. Which he ended up doing anyway by inviting some members. Funnily enough, some community members were surprised that I wasn't there, and I told them I wasn't invited. My family was also hurt and offended by this situation and know his family very well. Friend still texts me on a weekly basis like nothing happened since we have many common interests. I hardly reply. Hoping for some advice on how to go about things. My close friend didn't invite me parents to his wedding but invited other friends and other community members. Story: we, 25M and 25F, need to change our entire relationship after a car accident. I don't know how to talk to her anymore. My 25 years old girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years, and we're talking about getting married someday when all of this happened. I am deeply in love with her, and want to know how to love her better while keeping myself sane about this. We met in college, where we were both loners, but connected over our love of running. Both of us are super into every aspect of this hobby, even more so than a lot of normal people who run. I gotta get into it all basically. We were both obsessed with types of shoes, the exact running times on certain local trails, niche techniques, water bottles, etc. Literally everything. And I'd met other people who liked running before, but not in the obsessive way I did. When I met her, it was like finding the other half of my soul immediately, as cheesy and cliché as that is. We built our relationship first as running buddies, and our entire relationship blossomed from there. We would go running together every day, and race each other in some of the most highly competitive races I've ever run. I think we've only ever skipped a handful of days every once in a while in our entire relationship. Our shared hobby is our life, and she is my whole life. We have so many memories on specific trails, and whenever we used to go out we'd talk about the latest news related to our shared interest, new sneakers that were getting released, new water bottles we wanted to try, crazy obsessive shit like that. Fast forward to the present. My girlfriend was in a massive car accident 8 months ago, and is paralyzed from the waist down. She is in a wheelchair, and it's been very hard on us both. All of the hard, scary stuff is over, but we're trying to settle back into our life and literally everything is different. For one, we can't go running together anymore, and we might not be able to ever again. She's in physiotherapy, and the hope is that one day she will be able to run again, though not for a long time. I miss this aspect of our relationship so much. We are still partners in the sense that we share certain finances, and we have been learning how to go out on dates, even having to navigate all the accessibility checks around her wheelchair, but the thing we built our relationship on is gone, or at least won't return for a long time. We've tried going to some of the easier trails, and she wheels beside me while I walk, and it was nice the first few times, but I keep thinking how much it's not the same. And since everything happened, it bums her out to talk about anything related to our shared hobby, so we just don't anymore. This whole thing makes me feel terrible and sad and frustrated. Before all of this, we had the best communication in the world, but I don't know how to talk to her about this without making her feel like I'm blaming her, or like she's not enough. I don't love her any less. My 25 years old girlfriend 25 years old, and I fell in love through running. After a car accident, she cannot run anymore. I don't know how to talk to her about this. Story: my husband told me he also loves someone else. My husband, Grant, 33 male, and I, 30 female, have been together for 12 years, married 3. We originally were living in my home state but moved to his after his parents' health started to take a decline. We've been living here for several years now. In that time I met a girl, 26 female, at work about 3 years into us moving, and after bringing her around me, my husband and her were all friends. We had a period where we didn't talk with her for maybe 2 years due to issues in our relationship with how my work was going, and her with a toxic friend group. TBF, we should have stayed and helped her out, but my husband and I were having a tough time barely seeing each other. Eventually we reconnected at the beginning of the year, and we would bring her out of her house to hang out and let her decompress from home life. A few months ago I noticed Grant was a lot more silent than normal, barely texting when we were at work and being somewhat physically distant. I eventually asked him what was wrong, and he said he was going through some mental issues. We both are diagnosed depressed, so I thought it stemmed from that. We made up, but there's still a very subtle hint of tension. When hanging or chatting in person, Grant is reserved, not as much in chat but definitely in person. I noticed in our friend chat he was the one more likely to initiate conversation than when it was just us, and I thought he was just trying to help keep her occupied. He initiated hangouts, which was weird because we were both home buddies. It started to nag at me when we would all hang out, and he would buy things for her too. I'm the one in the friend work group that people go to for advice, so I tend to pick up on things more than others, and about a month ago it sort of dawned on me that there was more than friendship there, at least from him. Recently, Grant was even more in his thoughts, and it was concerning me. I eventually got him to start talking, and at first he was very vague, and kept insisting he loved me. I didn't doubt that, but I had to guess he had feelings for someone, and guess again it was our friend. My heart sank when he acknowledged it, because it seemed like at first he couldn't admit it to himself. He eventually told me that he sort of figured it out when I confronted him about the distance, and had been battling with himself on how to tell me. He did insist he did not love me less, but loves her the same as me. I'll be honest, I'm probably still in shock and I'm not sure how to process. I feel like I should have been mad when he told me, but I can't bring myself to be. I'm not mad at her because she doesn't know. She's also in a relationship of her own and has never really expressed interest in anybody but the person she's with. And I understand people can love differently and the same for different people. We both just didn't think we would have to deal with this. I'm just not sure how to proceed. This man is the love of my life, and I don't think I can feel the same way I do for him as someone else. Leaving him isn't an option for me. I just need a way to navigate this. Story: should I break up with my girlfriend? Hey, so this is complicated, but I will try to keep it simple. I am 27 years old, and about 3 months ago, I met 27 years old a girl and we hit it off right away. For some background, she is one of the first real relationships I ever had, and I am used to being alone and mostly just keeping to myself. I live with my mom and enjoy video games, anime, and all things nerdy, so I'm that type of guy. Needless to say, this is all new to me, and she also has 2 kids and an ex-husband, all of which she was upfront with me about. For the first few months everything was amazing, especially the S word. We were so passionate and I grew to really care for her and her kids, who in retrospect I may have met too early on. Anyway, I got sick recently and she has been going through a lot too, planning this party for her and her family. She texted me today saying that she wanted space and is going through a lot, and I assumed that meant I could get out of driving the hour and a half to her house to go to the family party, and sadly that made me happy. The reason I say sadly that made me happy is because I feel guilty and bad that I was happy I had a chance to bail on that. Anyway, we had a long conversation tonight and I kinda told her I feel like we are rushing and I'm not ready for the commitment of everything due to some of the stuff I said in the first paragraph, how I am used to being a loner homebody. But she has been nothing but amazing and nice to me, and even helped me come out of my shell a bit. Even still, I can't help but think that eventually I will want to break up because someday she will want to move in together and have me take a big responsibility role with the kids, and I don't know if I will ever be ready for it. I expressed the exact paragraph above pretty much word for word to her, and then she will says she wants to stay together and to not worry about the future and live in the moment. I tried to get her to break up with me, I guess, by making it clear I wasn't sure if we were going to last forever and wasn't ready for a long-term commitment. She has kids and other drama. She instead said she loves me and wants us to work out, making me think she is a prize and it would be selfish and I would regret it if we broke up because the only reason I want to is just so I can go back to gaming all the time and doing whatever the hell I want. And I don't think that's a good enough reason because overall she really does care about me, and I know for a fact a girl like that is hard to find because she is amazing, so I may regret it later if I end things. Story: my BF of 4 years told me to find someone else if I want something long-term and that he doesn't believe in monogamy. I'm 26 years old, we've been together since I was 21 years old, he is now 31 years old. We've been together for 4 years in a monogamous relationship. I have a good job and have been stable since we met running my own business. He had a stable job, then 2020 happened, and he hasn't been stable financially until the end of last year. We also live together. We were discussing the future, and I don't even necessarily want to get married, but a promise ring would be ideal. He brought up having children about a year ago, which I would like to have some form of commitment if we were to go ahead on the child situation. I grew up in a broken home, as did he, and I wouldn't like the same for my children ideally. I expressed worries of being a single mother and he said, "You wouldn't be, we would co-parent and you have family and friends, you would be fine." He said no to the promise ring and that he could see being with me for about 5 more years, maybe longer, but not long-term. He told me, if you want to be with someone forever you should go be with someone else. Which was very painful because this has been the longest relationship in my adult life. Apparently, he doesn't believe in monogamy, which is what I thought our relationship has been since the beginning. A lot of confusion with that because now I question if the last nearly 5 years I've been with this person was even real. I don't want to feel like a burden, and I don't know why he ever asked me to be his girlfriend if he doesn't believe in that kind of thing anyways. I'm just truly confused because it didn't feel like I was speaking to him, just a stranger or something. A rug has been pulled out from under me. We never fight or have conflict and usually things are good, but I can't ignore this conversation. I feel hurt and duped, to be honest. Even in times of emotional need, he tells me to go to therapy instead of offering comfort. I feel that things went great up until the last year because I've had a lot of unexpected, uncontrollable situations that have been putting a strain on my happiness, not regarding the relationship, and everything hasn't been sunshine and rainbows. I'm at a loss. This has been a huge slap in the face. I thought we were on the same page up until now, especially when he brought up children. Is it so crazy to ask for a little commitment? Or delusional to want to grow old and have romance together? He's not much of a romance guy. I'm pretty sure he's just comfortable and not deeply in love with me. I could use some advice. My boyfriend of 4 years doesn't believe in monogamy despite our monogamous relationship and told me to go be with someone else if I want something long-term. Super confused because he brought up wanting children with me. I never asked for that or marriage. Story: I, 38 am so exhausted, depressed, and beat down from never feeling attractive enough, even to my wife, 38F. How can I beat this feeling? I'm 38 years old, around 175 pounds, and right around 6 feet tall. I run and lift fairly regularly, and eat relatively healthy. I feel like maybe I could work on my midsection a little more, but I'm still in light athletic shape. I feel like I'm pretty average and plain in the face and maybe look a little young for my age. In the last few years I've really invested time and money in skincare and think it has paid off. I get fairly expensive haircuts every month or two to keep looking nice. And yet after all of that I am still so insecure about my appearance. I look in the mirror and I just never like what I see. No matter how much I work out, no matter how well I dress, no matter how much time I spend with different hair and skincare products, I still feel like there's just something about me that's off, and still never good enough. Like I just look a little goofy and just a little out of the ordinary, as if there's a little something unexplainable that puts me into some weird territory. Part of what makes me think this is that I don't feel like there's ever any external cues to let me know that all of my work in taking care of myself is paying off. My wife doesn't pay me that much attention. I never ever get compliments from anyone on how I dress or how much working out has paid off. When I am by myself in public, women never give me a second glance. There's just so much that tells me that I am just not enough when it comes to this. I know that a lot of people will say that attractiveness comes from other things as well. How funny a person is, how charismatic they are, stuff like that. I am feeling fairly confident about that too. I am a little shy and introverted until I get to know someone, but after that I feel fairly sure that I am charming and funny and caring for people. I just don't get it. I wish there was anything at all to tell me that I had some worth in terms of my appearance. Not having anything to go on makes me doubt myself and even hate myself at times. I know that things like this are supposed to come from within, but I feel like if I am only ever telling myself that and no one outside of my own biases ever tells me anything, it's just a delusion on my part. Story: my M29 girlfriend, F29, is continually getting upset at me. I am 29 years old, recently began seeing a girl 27 years old from Mexico. Lately, I dread going out with her because there's always an issue. This week, I added her to my gym membership and yesterday invited her to go work out together. We were supposed to meet outside at around 5:30 p.m., but she didn't arrive until about 6:15 p.m. and since she doesn't have a phone right now, I had to wait outside the entire time. After our workout, I went to change while she finished jogging. She asked if I was going to take a shower because she was, and I said no. I asked if she minded if I waited next door at a bar where my friends work at, assuming she'd be 20 to 30 minutes, but she got annoyed, so I waited outside the changing room for her. After 15 minutes, she came out, and I suggested an Uber to her place. She got mad we weren't going to the bar next door. I explained I thought she'd be longer, which is the only reason I mentioned it, and didn't mind going, but that I couldn't stay late as I needed to be up early. She gave me attitude and was dismissing me, so I just ordered the Uber. At her place, I stayed longer to let her cool down, and we talked outside. She accused me of not wanting to be seen with her and not communicating properly. I explained I never planned to go out after the gym and had told her I wouldn't be able to stay out late. She accused me of lying since it was 10:45 p.m., saying we had time to go out the bar. I told her I stayed to let her cool down and talk and that I originally planned to be home by 9 p.m. because I'm usually asleep by 9 p.m. and wake at 5 a.m. We talked for almost an hour, and when I went to call a taxi, she accused me of always running away whenever we talk. I explained I had to be up early and she insisted she knew that and wasn't trying to keep me. I eventually called the taxi and left, getting home after 12 p.m. and did not fall asleep until after 1 a.m. I don't know what to do anymore. No matter what I do, she finds something to be upset about. Do I just end the relationship? Or is it this salvageable? The following are just a few of the things she's accused me of or gotten upset over. Got upset after our first date because she saw me out with a female friend a week later. Got upset when I invited her to my place to go for a walk in a nearby park to see a lake she said she wanted to visit. Supposedly I wasn't respecting her integrity as a woman and people may get the wrong impression. This was before we were official. Upset that I wasn't picking her up and dropping her off for our dates, even though I don't drive. Didn't hold her hand while walking. I stopped by a bar after work where my friends work and she accused me of going there to spend time with my ex since she also works there, wasn't working there that night. Got upset when I told her I wish I could run my hand across her body, supposedly after 2 months of seeing each other. That's too intimate of a thing to say. Got upset when I indicated that her skin tone was slightly darker than mine and she accused me of being racist towards South Americans after she was just comparing the fact that I get sunburnt and she doesn't. Walked ahead of her after an outdoor movie where I got bitten over 40 times by mosquitoes. I wanted out of there. My girlfriend is continually getting upset at me and accusing me of things. I really like her, but I'm at my wit's end. Story: at an impasse with girlfriend about her education. What do I do? 26M and 26F. My girlfriend is really upset about her choice of schools and wants my help, but didn't apply and doesn't seem to be putting in effort. What do I do? My girlfriend is bright and driven, but deeply depressed and prone to shutdowns. She dropped out of art school as an upper junior a long time ago in the midst of family and personal chaos. Now, 6 years later, she's completed an associate's degree and wants to finish a bachelor's. The problem is that she doesn't like the only school that took her a high-quality but less exciting local public college. The problem isn't her grades. She graduated summa cum laude with glowing recommendations for multiple professors. I told her while she was applying that a full-time job plus a full course load and an internship would make it near impossible to make a good application anywhere. She chose to continue full throttle anyway and missed nearly every deadline. She specifically chose not to apply to the local Ivy League institution because it would be embarrassing, in her words. Now she is in tears every single day as she feels her potential is being wasted. It doesn't help that said public college has horrible bureaucracy and has messed up her credit evaluation. For the record, I agree that she could get into a better institution if she put her mind to it. She has been in deeper moments of crisis shouting at me and telling me I didn't help enough, but I just am not sure what I should have done without her giving herself the space to work on it. A few times I've suggested applying for the coming spring, but she just starts self-deprecating and shutting that down. She begs for help and accuses me of getting in the way of her dreams, but then turns down every specific offer of help. I am feeling really drained. I want to know what personal changes I can make to stop feeling so drained and support her better. When I began writing this, she was on her way out to the gym. She stopped right at the front door to turn around and complain about the school situation. This escalated into telling me how ugly she thought she was. I tried reassuring her, and she opened her phone and started going through pictures of herself from years ago to illustrate her point. This escalated into calling herself a failure with nowhere to go in the world, which then escalated into throwing her phone and making suicide jokes. Finally, I couldn't take it and had a panic attack, at which point her mood changed and she began kissing me all over, at which I could only cringe, and then left for the gym as if nothing had happened. This all took over 3 hours. There are of course many sides to every story. Here are the ways I give her a hard time. I am a teacher and the generic book-smart type. She has significant trauma with school, and especially with her father, who used to shake her and call her stupid. She really doesn't like my intellectual show-offy manner. I try to minimize this and talking about work in general, but I know that I haven't done enough. I could certainly be a better listener and better at responding to her when she spirals. I know that I am supposed to remain calm and reassuring, but it does hurt. The result is that I am at first robotic and then despondent. I just still haven't found the best way to be supportive. I myself have rather low self-confidence. I know this is really unattractive and not very healthy to be around. There is surely much more that I don't see about myself. How should I support her? To what extent should I be helping her? I can't start these applications for her, that would be a breach of ethics. But should I just accidentally do so anyway? This is important to me, and I want to make sure she has a good outcome. Story: the guy that I'm in 24F seeing is starting to act weird and I need help out of this situation. I think I've made a mistake. I have gotten myself into a really bad situation. I was desperate for what I thought was the type of love I needed to feel normal, but now I want absolutely nothing to do with this man or romantic relationships anymore in general. I do not look like an adult. It's genes. My whole family looks way younger than their actual age, with people thinking my mom is my sister sometimes. I look underaged, and have had people guess anywhere between 14 to 18. When I was in Florida about a month ago by myself for vacation, I even had people asking me where my mom was, and the security people in the airport pulled me aside to ask me if I was traveling with anyone. I am not particularly short, but have a very skinny build, ridiculous baby face, and braces, which doesn't help with everything. Nobody can ever guess that I am my real age. I try to hide it most of the time honestly because I'm starting to feel a certain way about getting older. I am not saying this to brag, but it is relevant to what I'm about to explain. Because of how I look, I usually only get hit on by 2 types of guys. The first group are obvious teenage boys who think I'm their age, and the second is older, usually middle-aged men for whatever reason. There is no in-between. Rarely does any guy my age actually flirt with me, probably because they think I'm younger. This used to really bother me because I am not interested in teenage boys for obvious reasons: age, maturity difference, and because they scare me tbh, and older men who hit on me in that context creep me out. No matter what I did, it wouldn't change. I tried to dress more sexy, but that's not me at all. I don't like dressing sexy, and it makes me look awkward. I have a very particular, girly way of dressing that involves a lot of pink and pastel colors. Probably doesn't help, but I can't help what styles I'm attracted to. About 7 months ago, while I was out at the library, a guy approached me while I was sitting at a table reading. He started flirting with me, asking me about what I was reading, and said he thought I was very cute. We ended up exchanging numbers. I admit I was a bit flattered by the attention, and he was cute, so I thought, why not, I'll call him just to see what he's like. He looked to be maybe in his early 30s, which isn't too old for me to date. I called him the next day, and we started hanging out a lot. He took me on dates, and we went on walks, and to other nice places. I found out his age on the 4th date. He is actually in his mid-40s. We didn't label ourselves as anything at first. Despite his age, he was really nice to be around. He didn't demoralize me for my more childlike interests, or way of clothing, or anything. He actually would buy me clothes that matched my aesthetic: stuffed animals, Disney things. Yes, I'm a Disney girl, and called me his baby, little girl. I thought it was just a cute little pet name. I didn't feel weird around him. I actually felt like there was finally someone who understood me. But everything changed when he found out my age about 3 weeks ago. Yes, I never mentioned it, because he never asked, and didn't seem to care. He started making these weird comments about my age. How when I eventually turned 25 everything goes downhill from there. He keeps asking me if I would stay the same for him, his baby girl. He's cold but affectionate at the same time, which confuses me. Now he wants me to do all of these role-playing things, and to call him daddy, which I've never done. I'll be getting my braces off soon. I was really excited about this, because I've had them in my mouth for years, but he seemed disappointed, and said that maybe I should prolong my appointments, keep scheduling out, because they're a part of me that he really likes. I am starting to get a weird feeling about him, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. I feel like maybe I want to stop dating hanging around him, but we've been together so much that even when I tell myself not to respond any more to his calls, I always end up calling him anyway. If I don't respond after so many hours, he'll show up to my house, which is bad, because my mom I still live with her knows nothing about him, and I don't want her to find out about him. And even though he makes sometimes hurtful comments about my age, I'm attached to the way he's made me feel. How he's made me feel normal for my other interests, and liked. I have never been in a relationship before, and I thought I wanted one. But I honestly don't want to be bothered by men anymore, at least right now. I feel stuck and torn. I'm sick of being in a tug-of-war between his coldness and affection. I told him yesterday that I needed a break, but he blew up at me. I don't think he'll leave me alone, and I don't know what else to do. I feel like life won't be the same without him, but I also feel so exhausted, and I don't think this is what relationships are supposed to feel like. Is there a way that I could talk to him to make him understand my perspective? I'm thinking maybe we can still be semi-distant friends who occasionally hang out if he stops making comments about my age and my appearance, which is honestly not flattering to be told I look like a little girl. I'm trying not to get my mom or brother involved, who I know will start seeing red and make the situation worse. I am starting to feel weird about the guy I've been dating. He made me feel understood and appreciated at first, but since he found out my age, is starting to act cold toward me, make comments about my weight, and calling me a little girl. I'm trying to cut down contact without things escalating and need some help. I have no experience in relationships. Story: my boyfriend, 25M, is not who I, 25F, thought he was. How do I move on from this? I don't even know where to start. I feel like my whole worldview has changed. First of all, I know that every year starts with my boyfriend is the most lovely person. And I thought the same. But just so you don't think I'm completely delusional, every person who has met my boyfriend or heard about some of the stuff he's done for me have loved him. He's usually very attentive, caring, plans nice surprises, emotionally supportive, affectionate, etc., etc. Genuinely felt like a book character written by a woman. My mom loves him too. It all started when he got demotivated and then very depressed because he wasn't doing well in his career. I was worried about him and our future tbh, so I was encouraging him to apply to jobs etc., to which he said he would, but still have very little motivation. Anyways, long story short is I was constantly reminding him and asking if he's been applying, and I guess he got stressed out because he basically lied to me and said he was applying to stuff when he didn't. He lied about this a few times over a couple of weeks. He knows it's wrong, so he's not justifying it, but he explained in his brain he thought by not disappointing me and saying he already did something would give him motivation to actually do it. Anyways, I thought this was very out of character, so I decided to forgive after a bit of arguing, etc. But in the back of my head I felt like something was off and I couldn't trust him, so I dug through his phone, which for the past 10 years I've had access to. He shared all his pins and passwords to me. While digging, I found a conversation this happened 6 years ago with a friend who was a girl. They discussed some sexual stuff, not sexting, but more like I like this, and later things like I would like to do this with my GF, or we're both switches. But she also divulges quite a lot of sexual stories. He doesn't react a lot to them. She goes, I've shared a lot of secrets, now it's your turn. And he shares that when he was young, way before he met me, he experienced a hand job from another guy. I've literally never heard this story and I just feel very betrayed. I've had chats like these with female friends and gay guys, but I don't think it's ever something I've shared with a straight guy friend. 1:1. I get that he made the existence of me very plain, but just feels odd. I feel like boundaries were completely crossed in telling other people things that I don't know. Feels like emotional cheating. Anyway, I'm going to confront him and very likely leave. But I just want perspectives. Or like advice from people that have had something similar happen to them. I know it's 6 years ago, but I feel like I don't know him anymore. I'm so perplexed because this doesn't match with the person I thought I knew. At all shy, reserved, very loving, telling me he misses me every day, writes love letters, gets giddy when seeing me kind of person. How can you fake being so in love for the last 10 years? Any pearls of wisdom very greatly appreciated. Boyfriend of 10 years spoke about sexual topics not on a sexting way with a female friend. And spoke about a sexual encounter from before he met me that I didn't know about. I'm likely going to leave, but how do I deal with this? Any other perspectives? Story: my partner, 20M, and I, 21M, have different values. Should we break up? To get things straight, I love, respect my partner very much. We meet each other's emotional needs. Our communication is great, and we respect and unconditionally support each other. However, I'm deeply scared because of our radical differences in values. I'll provide brief examples to illustrate these differences. For instance, on family, he deeply values blood ties, while I believe family should be a unit made out of love that one can choose. He believes children must love their parents because they gave them life, while I think parents must earn a child's respect. We both want to have children, but for radically different reasons. He sees children as a way to leave a legacy, and he has expressed that he would pressure his children to have their own children so he can have grandchildren. I see children as an opportunity to learn and develop virtues, and I plan to give full autonomy to my children. I see my legacy through my work and the ideas I pass on to those who look up to me. He also has expressed how we would pass on gender expectations to his children. He would pierce his daughter's ears and dress her in ball gowns. I would fiercely oppose any body modifications without consent and believe in dressing children in comfortable clothes, allowing for play. I would have no issue if my child turns out to be girly, tomboy, or even transgender. Our backgrounds also lead to misunderstandings. I was raised in a wealthy Latin American household by extremely liberal parents, while he was also raised in Latin America, but his family is middle class. My background has pushed me to believe in smart work rather than hard work, as my parents made their wealth from social connections and strategic investment. He believes not in smart work but in hard work from rule following. He was raised to follow the rules and aim for traditional measurements of high achievement. I was raised with complete freedom to be autonomous, with no parental expectations, and with just support for my decisions. My parents even allowed me to homeschool myself with the support of great educators. This led me to an elite school, a 4.0 GPA in CS, and to build my own software company. I want to know how to approach a long-term relationship. On one hand, he recently turned 20, is still figuring things out, and is heavily reliant on his parents. He might grow to at least understand my outlook on life, which he currently respects but doesn't fully comprehend. Despite our love for each other, should I consider breaking up and finding someone who is a better fit? While he is a great partner in college, it would be a deal-breaker if he fails to understand my views, not necessarily share in the long term when we're contemplating marriage and children. For more context, I'm high-functioning autistic, and he is neurotypical. My partner and I currently share different values. which isn't a problem now, but might be in the future. Should we break up if these differences could become significant issues later on? Story, to support my partner or walk away. Me 44 years old and him 47 years old have been dating for over 2 years. The first 14 months we lived in our own houses and saw each other 3 times a week as we lived a 60 minutes drive away. We were really good at planning and making sure we had quality time and great balance, having our own social life and felt included in each other's lives. Life was great. I moved in with him for 7 months, as sold my house and was waiting on my new house to be built. The plan was to lodge at his, suck up the 2-hour round commute to work. If it was good, then he would move into my new house, which was only 20 minutes from each of our workplaces. First 3 months was good, then it wasn't great. We ended up living like roommates. He spent a lot of time in the pub or playing his computer. Slept a lot, was moody and stopped spend quality time with me and helping with chores. I missed my social life and closeness to friends. I did say he looked depressed, but he denied it. I moved into my house and we split up. We got back together a month later. He said that he was depressed and work stress was high and sought help. Said he was only sleeping 4 hours a night. He couldn't cope and only way to cope was to shut down. We agreed boundaries and ground rules. It's been 3 months and we are struggling to spend time together more than 2 days a week. He said he is so tired and work is crazy, so we are not doing much and he falls asleep lots. We had plans with friends over weekends, so doing really spend much time there. He said he feels that there is something wrong with him but will not visit a doctor and is still unable to sleep. Says he doesn't want to be ill. Last night he was supposed to come to mine at normal time. I got dinner ready and texted him. No response. Called, no response. I ate dinner alone. 3 hours later he called and apologized, saying he fell asleep on his sofa and only woke up. I can believe this as he is exhausted. But I did express how unhappy I was at him, as I feel he is not putting effort in. Just feeling that past patterns are appearing and he will shut me out. He says he is not and is trying but feels so ill. I have said he needs to go to the doctor, as he had been saying for 4 months. Said if he doesn't go by next week we can't continue, as the overarching theme is him not being well and he needs to take ownership, as I can't cope with this long term. So was I right? His illness, depression, is affecting our relationship. Any advice, as I am supporting and understanding, but he needs to get help to start getting better. Partner is unwell but is not seeking help. It's affecting our relationship and my compassion is going. Story, should I let go? I am tired. I have attachment issues and my BF has commitment issues. He also did something that betrayed my trust, and although I decided to forgive him, I am struggling. Hi everybody. I 23 years old VE been dating my boyfriend 27 years old for more than 3 years now. We really love each other and I really do want to marry him someday. I know he feels the same way. But throughout our relationship, we've had many problems that made almost break up many times. At the beginning of the relationship I developed anxiety and starting depending on him too much. We've worked through it and now it's much better, but it's still there. I always want to see him more than he wants to see me. I want out to move together and he doesn't want to yet. I live alone and he still lives with his parents, so he first wants to live alone and is looking for an apartment. I understand his reasons, but I am always feeling like I want more and he wants less, and makes me feel unloved even though I know he adores me. On the other hand, he has commitment issues, started therapy and is getting better, but it always hurts when he hesitates on giving a step forward. But then, when everything started getting better, a friend of mine found him on Tinder once. I talked to him about it and he said he and his friends had downloaded it only one night to look for people for a pregame before a party, which I know is true because he did it before we dated, but I had specifically told him not to do it anymore since it made me feel unrespected. I took this really badly and started having trust issues. We've been working together on it since then, but it's been 6 months and I still don't truly trust him. But I took the decision to forgive him and move on. We've really been doing better and communicating a lot. However, after 3 years and so much trouble and fights, I start to wonder if someday we will be at peace and happy. Don't get me wrong, I am really happy when I am with him and with the life we share. It really is amazing. It feels like Omovai. But when we start arguing or when I feel insecure, my whole world crumbles. I really need some empathy here. Story, BF flying out for 3 weeks, Feeling extremely sad and nervous. How do I cope? My boyfriend, 21 years old, and me, 20 years old, have been together for nearly 6 months and 2 days from now. He is currently boarding his flight back to his home. He has not seen his family in years as he moved abroad at a young age. I am very happy he is getting to see his family, however, I am extremely scared and nervous. We have fought a lot over stuff due to miscommunication, his expectations, some stuff I did, or how we both hurt each other unknowingly due to both of our insecurities. This is also my first actual serious relationship where the end goal for both of us is marriage. I was in a relationship last year, but it was barely 3 months and my ex cheated. Me and my boyfriend did have a major fight, 3 consecutive fights, which lasted 2 weeks. One was my fault. It was something related to trust. The other 2 were ignited by him for either no exact reason, but the premise being I wasn't being a good listener and I was not working on myself. We both come from very different backgrounds, both financially and culturally, and we jumped into a relationship within 10 days of meeting, so this is all understandable. However, since the last fight, less than 2 weeks back I think, I did consider breaking up because of his tone and not being mature enough, but all the memories and everything came back. He apologized for his tone and behavior, promised to work on it while I promised to work on myself and our issues too. He said he would make sure I won't regret it. Now back to these few days, he suddenly needed to fly to his hometown as his parents kept insisting on wanting to see him while he was avoiding it. His cousin fell sick, so it triggered his parents to get him back home. He is now happy about going, and as much as I hate the fact we will be long distance for 3 weeks, our communication sorta sucks, lack of proper internet connectivity, and since he will be busy with traveling, health checkups, seeing family, it would be hard to keep in touch as much. I am a very emotional person, I have anxiety and ADHD and tend to overthink and go insane a lot. A little clingy too, I just love with passion. Now that he is flying out and I won't see him, I'm really sad. He used to sleep over 2 nights a week and sometimes we would see each other 3 to 4 times a week aside from daily FaceTimes or calls and sending reels. Just the fact we haven't gone more than a week without seeing each other, our communication compromised. My insecurity in him not texting as often or being as expressive since our fight is really making me go crazy. He did get me a plushie, let me take his hoodies, got me some kinky stuff for our time, and even spent the last 2 to 3 days with me since he had to fly out, and even started posting me on his close friends, something he never really did, and only started doing it after our fight cause I always posted him on my spam and he knew I like it. He usually doesn't post stories often and is worried people will put a bad eye on us, but him not being as expressive on text makes it harder for me. He even told his roommates how life has become simpler and better for him cause I'm here and he is able to focus on work too. Though we fight so much, he cares about me and is always there through my mental health struggles, buys me courses to upskill in life and get ahead of my peers and everything. Earlier he used to send many paragraphs or voice notes, but now it's like I am the one texting first most times or him not opening messages till I double text and crap. And he won't say I love you as much as what I feel, though he does say it otherwise. He is not as expressive and admits it. All of this just scares me so much. He told me this isn't a goodbye and he will be back soon and promises we will make it way stronger than before. Yeah, I do get it, things don't necessarily stay the same after a fight, but I just need some sort of reassurance. What he says doesn't give me enough hope right now. My campus therapist said that it is a good time for us to know more about each other, manage the distance, and I get myself back on track to work on myself like I was hoping to do. But again, the overwhelming feelings and fears has made me go insane. Anyone has tips on how to manage my emotions and actually stop getting so damn emotional over this? Boyfriend of 6 months is flying out for 3 weeks and our communication may be strained. Past fights and instability is adding to my fears and insecurities, though we both vowed to make it work and become stronger. I need tips on how to work on managing my emotions, stop getting emotional and make it work. Story: I don't want a relationship with my sister, what do I do? My brother is associating with our half-sister, I don't care to, and it's becoming uncomfortable. I'm typically pretty loquacious, so I'll try to cut it down. I am 38 years old, grew up with both my parents, and 36 years old my younger brother. My dad was married before my mom and had 2 kids, a son and a daughter, both of whom are about 10 years older than me. Not super relevant, but my parents divorced when I was in college. My understanding is that my dad wasn't perfect, but his ex was vindictive and fed my half-siblings a bunch of crap so they'd hate him, which worked for a while. Eventually, my half-bro reconciled. I guess my half-sis did to some extent, because I met her and her husband when I was a teen. It was easy to form a friendship of sorts with my half-brother because we had similar interests. I think his sister never fully came around to my dad, which, whatever. Reader's Digest version is that I have a fine relationship with half-bro and, for most of my life, no contact with his sister. Recently, my younger brother got all four of us together. It was a fine time. I enjoy hanging out with my brothers, and the half-sister seemed fine enough, besides lightly shit-talking my dad, despite not talking to him for decades. Her son was super nice, and I thought we all had a good time. At the end of the night, I was completely blindsided by her suggesting we should have a heart-to-heart of sorts. I know my younger brother had a convo with her about. I honestly don't know what, but anyway. I have no investment in that relationship. I absolutely meant no offense, but I told her I didn't feel it was necessary, but we could, if it would make her happy. I definitely admit that that seems a bit harsh, but I didn't intend it to be. I have no problem with her, but I also don't have the emotional and mental bandwidth right now to try to form a new relationship, let alone one I don't care about. And I don't feel compelled to put myself out for it. I'm nearly 40, she's never made an attempt at a relationship before, and that's fine. I only mean to say that she didn't spend her life pining for a relationship with her half-sister, and that absolutely does not hurt my feelings. She was evidently very offended. My younger brother invited me to another gathering, and while I'd love to go, I don't want to deal with her. She's rather dramatic, and I anticipate an issue with us both being there. My ideal scenario is getting her to understand that we are basically strangers, and I like hanging out with her, but we're not family and I don't care for us to be. Kind of makes the gathering complicated. For what it's worth, I understand how this sounds, but I hold no animosity towards her. It is truly complete indifference, and I have too much on my plate right now to feign caring. So, I'm not sure how to proceed with the invite. Story, future Fael, 56, keeps putting pressure on me, 32M, and my fiancé, F30, to get married sooner. How do I handle this? To start off, me and my future wife have been together for 3 years, and we plan to do a wedding in Greece in 2026. The thing is that I want to save up for the wedding so I can pay for everything. Me and my partner don't agree with the way weddings are done in our country. You go to someone's wedding and give them an envelope with a large amount of cash, and in return they will come to your wedding and give you an envelope of cash when your time will come. I completely hate this way of doing things, which is why I want a wedding in another country with few close friends and with no envelopes or gifts. Now the problem is that it will take me some time to raise the money needed, and here is where problems start to come. My Phil keeps insisting that we should wed earlier and keeps asking my fiancé why are we taking so long. Also, he offered to pay for everything provided that we do the wedding in our own country, or if we insist, to help us with the costs of a foreign wedding, to which I refused for several reasons. The first reason is that he always likes to be in control of everything, and by accepting we won't have any say in how the wedding is going to be organized. Secondly, I want to achieve something by myself and offer my partner a memorable experience, and to which I'm 110% sure that my Phil won't agree with some of our mine choices. The latest thing that he has done, and to which I feel has put some tensions between me and my partner, is that he wants to take a trip to Asia, in which he wants to go with his wife and his daughter, but not with me because he stated that we are not married yet and that he would offer or take us on expensive trips if we were to be married. I feel like he is doing this on purpose to exert pressure on me and my partner. Another thing that my partner tends to agree with him and also started putting pressure on me. She usually tends to agree to what her parents say or get caught in the middle between me and them. Also, for more context, I work a decent job in the IT sector and have a good enough income to afford the Greek wedding. The only problem is that we have to wait a bit. And no, I hate the idea of a bank loan. FIL putting pressure on me and my partner to marry earlier than we planned. I want to wait because I want to pay for the entire wedding by myself, since I want to have things in a certain way and won't settle for less or something else. Phil keeps bugging my partner and has recently offered to take her and his wife on an expensive vacation to Asia, but not me since we are not married yet. Story, my 20F girlfriend, 20F, is not responding, but I can't tell if she ghosted or something happened. Is there anything else I can do? Advice on moving on from this? What do you think happened? My girlfriend, 20 years old, has been radio silent for 3 weeks, and I'm at the point of considering it a ghosting, but the suddenness of it has me so worried I find it impossible to just move on from her character. We matched on Tinder about 3 months ago, real romantic, and were only official for about a week before she disappeared. We had been going on weekly dates since we matched, most of these lasting close to 12 hours as we'd get lunch, go for a 4-mile walk, and talk. She brought me a flower she picked on almost every date and has been incredibly considerate and sweet. Our interests are very different, but that didn't hold us back as we could carry a conversation about anything and found things to do together we both enjoyed. She grew up in a small, rural town and comes from a homophobic family who she is not out to yet, as she has reason to suspect they may disown her and plans to wait a few more years. She had been hoping to get off work to visit family for the 4th. My last message before she disappeared was asking if she would be able to. I never received confirmation that she was, but I assumed that she did and was not responding due to travel and family, and initially that she had decided to extend her trip when the silence carried on through the weekend. No social media. A combination of her upbringing being largely analog and being a comp sci major giving her the ick towards social media. She's not on anything but Indeed for school, networking. I have attempted to add her on Indeed in case there is a phone-related reason we have lost contact, and at least if my connection is rejected I know she doesn't want to talk but is alive. The message has been pending for just under a week. I also sent a message on Tinder with my hashtag because we exchanged those in person, but she deleted the app and doesn't appear to have been on, and if her account is with her number and that changed she wouldn't have access to that either. She did not always text every day. I did not mind this as we had outstanding conversation in person and she showed her interest face to face rather than digitally. But this did leave sometimes a gap of a day, maybe two, where I would not hear from her, even on her day off, and when she did text, it was usually for a few minutes and she'd be unreachable again for about 24 hours. This was probably my biggest discomfort with the relationship, which I had intended to discuss the next time we saw each other, and may be the reason that most heavily influences my belief she ghosted. I do not know her apt. There were at least 2 dates where we sat in my car for an hour, talking when I dropped her off, but she did not invite me up or tell me the for future reference. I interpreted this at the time as it being late, 10 p.m. 12, and her not trying to keep me as I always worked the next morning, not wishing to insinuate more by inviting me up. The last time I saw her I said if we were going to chat for an hour so often she'd have to invite me soon. BC the car was uncomfortable, but that I wasn't inviting myself up. She chuckled and said okay. She did not initiate hand-holding or the few kisses we had, but her face lit up when I asked to. When I asked if there was a reason she had not been initiating she said she did not want to make me uncomfortable, something I would attribute to a homophobic upbringing I can relate to but have personally much more overcome. We only became official on our last date, about 5 days before she disappeared. She has Android, my texts don't say delivered to any Android friends, but her phone still rings before voicemail when I call so I do not believe I am blocked. Which means calls and texts just asking if she was okay went through and were ignored. Kind of hard to believe she would do that, even if she did not want to speak with me. And if she doesn't want to speak with me, why am I not just blocked? I have Apple, is there an indicator I've been blocked that I'm missing? She has had relationships before, at least 2, so homophobia has not held her back in the past. She identifies as a lesbian and appears to have no shame or trepidation with it. I am concerned however if it came up while she was home for the 4th somehow and if there was some sort of intervention, those can be bad. She had recently been diagnosed with a heart murmur, which a doctor just determined to be harmless, but I can't stop worrying something happened in relation to this. I asked her 4 to 5 dates in what she was looking for. The answer was a committed relationship. We had a laugh that we'd both attempted casual in the past but did not have the capacity to date casually. She acknowledged that she may not have time for dates weekly when school started, but that she would focus on getting a car so she could more easily come to my side of town rather than bus or Uber. BC she felt bad. I was making the full commute and would drop her off at home after. What I gleaned from this is we had agreed on our intentions and were beginning to solidify future plans, intentions. As stated above, she brought me flowers, and she was first to pick up the check, which I reciprocated the next date, so she shouldn't have felt I was taking advantage. We were taking turns. Both I would consider strong indicators someone is invested because they are showing commitment through actions that are not required of them. We had been making plans for the Renaissance Fair and she was planning her costume as well as the expense and how she could invest in something more pricey if she could also wear it in her regular rotation. I would consider this another sign of intending on at least a near future together because of how much thought she was putting into plans. I looked her up online for any obituaries, there were none, but the website I was forwarded to was Truthfinder, which notified me she was flagged as being on a government watch list. I was not looking for this information, but, what? I wondered if this was related to the screening process for her military application, but according to the definition on the site, that shouldn't be the case. I'm not about to pay the website money for her information, so I do not know the details of the watch list, but an address with her hometown was attached to her name and phone number, so I'm fairly confident it is really her. I don't even know how this could be related other than making the disappearance around the time she was supposed to go home so much weirder. The site does say this does not indicate criminal activity, could be related to someone she knows, or just reasonable suspicion without any wrongdoing. We became official on our last date. On this date, we talked about a number of things before starting a relationship, including her interest in joining the military, our relationships with our parents, communication, and exclusivity. When I inquired upon her interest in the military, and let her know the long distance required of the branch she was considering did not align with my lifestyle goals, I had been worried we might be at an impasse that would end our relationship. Instead, she backpedaled that she was not fully decided yet and open to being swayed. Her mom was already convincing her not to. Discussing our relationships with our parents is when she confirmed she intends to tell her parents in the future, but not for a few years, and said she'd be willing to talk more about family at a later date, not dinner, understandably, but therefore indicating future opportunity to discuss. On the topic of communication, she admitted it came less naturally to her, whereas I have no issue bringing attention to topics which need to be discussed, even when I don't want to. I said I'd be okay with it if she felt more comfortable discussing things on a call or over text, to which she said no, she wanted to handle serious conversations in person. Finally, on the topic of exclusivity, this was after she had confirmed she wanted to be in a relationship with me. She was the one who said exclusivity would be a non-negotiator for her, which I agreed to. It's what I wanted as well. On our last date, she looked me in the eye and said she felt so secure in our relationship, she wasn't used to it, but she was very happy about it. The last time I heard from her, she gave me the dates she would be available for a trip we were planning to take together. I had messaged to ask if she really wanted to go and didn't feel pressured, as she'd missed texting one day. We texted back and forth the next, then she missed two more, but she responded that she definitely wanted to go. Her boss had not given her the time off she requested for our trip, but she gave me the days that would work for her with the intention to trade some shifts. My response to her was that I would hold off further planning until she had secured the shifts, then we could discuss hotels and packing. And lastly, an inquiring message as to whether she had been given the time off to visit family, which she never responded to, so I had assumed the answer was yes, and that was the reason for her sudden silence. After a week of no responses to a few messages and calls just asking to know she was okay, I accepted that, if she had not responded yet, more attempts would not help. I'm sure she isn't getting my messages for one reason or another. My last message can be summarized as, if she wishes to ghost, I can respect that. I would however like to know she is okay, and would appreciate confirmation she wishes to terminate our relationship as we agreed to exclusivity. In case I do not hear from her, I gave her a date upon which I would be considering this a breakup. I have a brief message planned that I intend as my last correspondence upon that date, summarized as, I'm taking this as a breakup as there is nothing more I can do. I'm sad as this meant a lot to me, and if she ever sees the message, I would like to know that she is alright. I'm also leaving the door open as I do not wish to break up, I just don't know what more I can do. I don't want to bother her in case she did suddenly decide she wanted to go no contact. I truly just want to confirm that she is alright. It's hard to move on when I can't stop waiting, worrying I'll get a call from her in the hospital. The other night I had a nightmare about it. I know this will pass, but it's been awful trying to move on. I can typically see a ghosting coming and it doesn't faze me, I just move on and don't waste my time. I'm wishing she rejected me to my face so I could stop worrying. As of Monday, I'll be taking it as a breakup, but it really doesn't feel like one, so I feel weird about it. I'm doing okay, by the way. I went on the trip by myself since I never heard from her. I got to see a bunch of cool stuff. I have a great support system which I've been utilizing. I'm keeping active and have a lot going well for me right now. I don't think there's any more I can do, just move on like I've begun to, I guess. Bye and see you again in the next videos and stories.